So this fascinating topic linking sport and business is something that I'm really passionate about. So during this session, I'm really hoping to give you some practical tools that fuse these two mindsets together. So a bit of background on my career. I was very much in the shadows. I wasn't the great, talented, gifted performer. I was the journeyman professional for the 19 years. So on my transition from cricket, I went and studied a master's degree in sports psychology up at Loughborough University with the view to going to work with some of the great teams in elite sport, because I really thought there was a gap with somebody who'd experienced that success and, probably more importantly, the failure, and also translating those lessons into practical tools for sports coaches and also in business. So Sporting Edge was founded on that premise and that belief of equipping these practical tools. But actually what I wanted to do was go a step further. Rather than the normal 2x2 matrix and the normal research that we've seen, that's great to a point and it makes rational sense. But what I wanted to do was to go and unearth some of these people that were performing at the top of their game, the performers, the champions that were winning gold medals, that were creating an environment of high performance for decades. So going to interview some of those people and ask them those questions that business needs to know. How do you manage talent? How do you manage the Mavericks? How do you have these performance conversations? How do you set a criteria for a team and a set of behavioural rules? These things are parallels in sport and business. So I wanted to go and hear how the very best in sport did it so that we could translate it into business. So as we move through this session, I'll be looking at these insights from the elite performers in sport and trying to build them with the psychology that sits behind high performance so that we can translate them into tools that will make a difference to your bottom line. So what we find when we look at the psychology literature is this balance in your mindset. And very simply, it's this balance between the perceived challenge that you face and the perceived coping skills that you've got. So the operative word here is your perception. And we've got to, when we're building a strategy or working one-on-one with an individual, we've got to take away this threat. We've got to take away this challenge. We've got to simplify things. And this is a great insight from Sir Dave Brailsford about how he does that in conversation with his athletes.
I think you've got to differentiate between two things. I think we like to have outcome-driven strategies, so we always want an outcome. But I think you've got to be very careful in terms of really clearly understanding what's a dream, what we'd like to happen, and what's a target.
So great common sense, and our challenge as leaders is to make that common practice within our organisations, to distill this down into controllable processes that allow our performers to deliver their best game consistently under pressure. So moving outside of sport now, at Sporting Edge, we're really interested in all the thought leaders across the high performance spectrum. And we got the chance to meet Lisa Akerson, who's a communication expert and does some work with actors and politicians on delivering their message. And she's got a really clear point for us about the way we communicate going forwards.
People are not switched on just by fact. You've got to be able to tell a story around your fact, be able to communicate that with an aliveness of passion, and be able to somehow bring people into the reasons why this story is going to be moving and exciting and inviting and something that stays with them, so they take that with them and it impacts on them in a way that brings about change.
You know, what is the story that's going to galvanize everybody together? Because we make a lot of our decisions through emotion, not just rational data. And we've got to glue these two things together to get people to change their behavior, which is ultimately what we need in high performance to keep striving and moving forward. What we talk about as leaders and coaches is to get to number one, to win, to be the best. But what happens, you know, on the way up, that as a motivator, being the best in the world is great until you get there. And then it's like, what do you do next to sustain that level of performance, to sustain that level of striving that we had in that creative phase, getting us up to that position? And they wrote on the chalkboard the word Ubuntu. This is this Swahili philosophy that Nelson Mandela was really passionate about, that we can't judge our success by our car or our business card or our salary. We can only judge our success in life by the impact that we have on other people. So just in summary, I know we've got a lot of great content through the day. I talked about that natural stress response of us all pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. It's a very natural thing to do, to feel like you can't cope, First of all, we've got to take down that emotional escalation of the threat by making it rational, and we've got to build up our coping resources, and there's lots of things that we can do in that space to perform at our best. The next thing we heard from Sir Dave Brailsford about goal striving. Let's not just get emotionally attached to that very end of the line, the gold medal. Let's think about these daily processes that we can really make a difference on. It's a great message for us all to be thinking about. We heard from Lisa Akerson talking about how we need to balance the data and the rational thought and the metrics with the storytelling. Is it a quest that you're on? Is it a rebirth? Are you slaying the dragon? What's the story that's going to bring your organisation together to deliver great results? And then we heard from Paul McGinley, those great moments. It might be 5 minutes of deep focus where we have that great conversation with one of our performers. But we all know that if somebody focuses on you for 5 minutes and has a great conversation, it can make a real difference to your career. And then we heard from the Proteas, that really powerful video from Graham Smith, narrating it to his team, calling on their character to go beyond that selfish view of delivering performance and actually thinking about the wider context.